Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Howser. Get ready for a seafaring adventure because we are getting ready to leave land and visit 4 California islands. These islands are beautiful, they're historic, they're tropical, and I guarantee you right now, you think we're going to the Channel Islands, maybe even to Catalina Island, but we're not. We're going to 4 islands that I guarantee you've never been to before. And these islands, all 4 of them, are very much a part of California's goal. Okay, our California Island adventure begins. And our tour guide, we're going right to the top. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Huell, my name's Frank Coleman. I'm general manager for Thumbs here in Long Beach.
Now, you heard my introduction. You know why we're here. We want to visit 4 tropical, beautiful, historic California islands. And standing here, looking out, that looks like one to me over there. There's another one down there. There are 2 more down here. We're surrounded with islands, but these are not your traditional California islands. Give us the history of what these islands are all about, and well, where are we right now?
We're standing in Long Beach, California, and Long Beach has a long and storied tradition that centers around oil. Oil was discovered here in 1932, and we happen to be sitting on right now one of the largest oil reservoirs in all of North America, among the top 5 largest, called the Wilmington Field. Oil was discovered back in the 30s again in the onshore portion where oil derricks quickly sprang up.
I've seen those, well, everybody's familiar with those pictures, those postcards of oil derricks lining as far as you could see the beaches and the coastal areas right down here in Long Beach.
Well, there was a concern in those days from the residents about extending that kind of development offshore and creating blight and whatnot within the harbor. And so there was actually a vote that prohibited development of offshore drilling in this harbor to keep it pristine. It wasn't until in the 1950s that in the early 60s, that a vote took place that enabled development to take place here under very strict circumstances. And that is, in general, that the islands needed to be built in a way that would enhance rather than take away from the natural beauty of the harbor itself.
So these are not natural islands, these are man-made islands, and they're not really islands, they're oil, they're producing oil right now. These are active oil producing islands.
That's exactly right. Each of the islands has anywhere from 200 to 300 wells, and what basically happens is that oil is being produced from those reservoirs that comes into the island. It consists of water, oil, and gas. The water, oil, and gas are separated on the islands. The water is re-injected back into the reservoir, and then the oil and natural gas are shipped ashore via some subsea pipelines.
See, I think that's the beauty of what we're looking at right here, because when you stand here and look out here, you don't have any idea what's going on out here on this island or this island off in the distance. That's what makes this so special, is that the people of Long Beach said, if you're gonna drill offshore, you better follow strict environmental rules, and you also need to hide those things so nobody knows that those are oil islands out there.
That's absolutely right, Hugh. And the island is absolutely unique and innovative. There are no other islands of this design anywhere in the world.
Okay, we're going out to sea. Well, actually, Frank, we're not really going that far out to sea. How far out are these islands from the shore?
From the shore, the closest island is about a half a mile, and the furthest island's about a mile and a half.
There are 4 islands.
4 islands.
And they're man-made, so they were, these amazing pictures we've seen of the way they were built out of nothing.
They were man-made out of dredged sand that comes from the harbor bottom and perimeter rock that was mined from quarries over in Catalina Island. We bring those quarry rocks were brought over in the 60s. They formed kind of a donut on the base of the harbor floor. And as those penetrated the surface of the water, the sand was dredged into the middle of those to form the island.
How did you decide where to place the island?
There was a large engineering study done back in the 1960s that tried to position the islands in the best place to be able to drill wells and access the reservoir that needed to be depleted.
So this isn't haphazard. They were put there in that exact spot for a reason.
There was a lot of smart engineers back in those days that worked on where to position those.
Okay, we're coming up close to our first island. And Kara, you're an expert on this. You've written books about it. You live here in Long Beach. This tropical island reflects perfectly what the good citizens of Long Beach were thinking back in the 50s and 60s, doesn't it?
You're right, absolutely right, Huell. What happened was that the city wanted to go through a city beautification movement, and the citizens really had a concerted effort to absolutely do that. And by making sure that they could bring back the coastline, because this was one and the most important natural asset to the city. And so you can see by just the tropical feel, by the architecture, by the sculptures, the landscape architectures really made an effort to make sure that it could look like a fantastic island, but at the same time was an economic benefit to the city.
Actually, the citizens were probably reacting against all those years and all those postcards that had been sent from Long Beach showing miles and miles and miles of oil derricks all up and down the beach.
You're absolutely right again, because the citizens, they were very smart and they didn't want to be, as we could say, burned again. And so at the same time, they knew that the city would benefit tremendously with the libraries, with the schools, also with this whole beautification movement. And in 1961, the city actually was given the award of America's Beauty Queen as one of the most beautiful cities in the United States with regard to the greening of the landscape.
And this fit in perfectly.
And this fit in perfect when it was realized in 1966.
Along with condos.
Absolutely, condos that you don't live in, yes, and how the landscape architects really mirrored the Ocean Boulevard coastline in Long Beach, and there are several high-rises on Ocean Boulevard, one in particular, the Galaxy Tower, that you can definitely see a direct relationship.
So these were meant to look like the condos.
Yes, this urban feel on an island, and also again to mask what was happening underneath. It was almost like an aesthetic mitigation.
You know, when you look, now look in there, you can, when you look inside the island, you can begin to see some tanks and some equipment, but otherwise it's totally shielded by all of this greenery out here.
Yes, the greenery, the tropical landscaping, the condos, and also the architectural forms and sculptures that were created on the periphery of the island.
We have a boatload of experts with us today. Kurt is an expert on the landscape architect the oil companies hired to do all of this work. Tell us about this fellow. What was his name, Kurt?
Huell, his name was Joseph H. Linish, and Joe was a Southern California native, born in the Los Angeles area, lived and worked most of his life in Long Beach and Culver City.
Now, why did they choose him?
They chose Joe because he had a lot of experience both with themed designs, theme park designs, but then also, just before these islands, he had helped landscape a number of oil installations in Los Angeles.
Ah, so this wasn't a new idea to landscape oil drilling equipment. The idea was the whole island being
That's
landscaped.
right. He actually started out landscaping, mitigating these installations on land, and then this was the first time that they'd attempted to do this in a serious way on an island.